Okay, I think we're live now. Maybe. I don't know. There we go. Okay. Hi, everyone. I wanted to talk a little bit today about imposter syndrome. That is something that is a part of our field. I think in life, that's a part of most people's lives, whatever their profession is or their hobbies or things like that. We all have those really human moments where we feel insecure, or we feel like somebody's going to pull back the curtain and find out that you're not really a wizard, you're just a man sitting at a control panel. We have those things that occur in our field. I think they show up in a very different way. They show up in a very personal way because our work matters. When we're working with a client, we want the very best for that person. We want to show up for them every single time and give them the very best that we have. And sometimes in doing so, during the middle of a session, that thought will creep in about, gosh, this isn't really my area of expertise, and I do have experience with working with this type of issue, but maybe they'd be better off seeing another client. That's not a bad thought to have. Sometimes the point is that's a good train of thought, and you might need to refer them out to another person for maybe parts of the care that they're getting, or all of the therapy services that they're getting. So I think imposter syndrome can serve us and can serve the clients that we're working with. But it's also really personal, in that it really hits home. If we have a session where we've had a lot of imposter syndrome, it's really hard to shake that. We worry about the impact on the client, which most of the time is minimum. I read something recently. Someone said their supervisor said, for most clinicians, even if you show up on a day where you're not 100% your best, you're still way more insightful and way more helpful than most other people, because of the training that we've had and the experience that we've had. I don't know what your thoughts are about that, but I thought it was an interesting thing to consider, because we want to show up 100% every single day for our clients, but that's not realistic in life. I don't think there's any job where everyone where people are showing up 100% all the time. Now, hopefully, that brain surgeon that's going to be operating on your brain will be 100% that day. But I even wonder about that. So, this is just to throw out there that that piece of it, that we're going to have those days where we're not our very best, is a part of being human, and we can do the best that we can. And there have been times when I had a session that I thought, oh my gosh, it just didn't go the way I needed it to do, to get the progress that I'm hoping with the client, or help them gain the insight. And they will come back the next week and be like, last session was so amazing, so helpful. Thank you so much. And you're thinking, wow, that's pretty amazing, because I didn't feel like I did a great job. It's just part of what happens in our field. And, it's difficult, but it also, I think, is insightful for us to be able to realize that we are still providing really, really good care, even on a day that we're less than 100%. And that's a good thing. That means our training and our experience are really solid foundations for us to work off of. I would also like to encourage us to look more at those days that we're not 100%. Most of my colleagues and myself over the years, if we have a cold or something like that and we're not feeling great, we're going to push through that work day, and we're going to work anyway, because because we want to serve our clients. We don't want to have to cancel somebody, but also our income directly gets affected. If we don't see a client, we don't get pay. We're not salaried if we're in private practice, and therefore it's a difficult thing to manage. So keep all those pieces in mind when making those decisions, that you don't have to be 100%, but maybe you should be more aware of days that you need to be taking some time off. And honestly, after being sick for most of the month of December and a good portion of January, I think we need to push ourselves a little bit less right now. I talked about this some in the last video, that um, pushing ourselves too much in the long run, our body is going to get what it needs, and it's going to shut down areas that it needs to get recuperated and healed and all of those things. So you're either going to pay the price now, or you might pay the price later. So with imposter syndrome, I want to ask you a few questions. Today I want to sort of stir up your thinking about imposter syndrome, and I'm going to come back next week with some tips. And most of these things I see over and over and over come up in the peer consultation groups that I offer. And this is going to be sort of some groundwork for some of the things that we'll be doing if you're going to be joining me for the workshop on February 19th. So I want you to consider, do you remember the last time you had a really deep, invigorating conversation with a colleague where you received positive feedback and you that helped them and you, or that you showed up for a colleague and you felt really great afterwards that you were able to support them? Do you remember the last time you reached out to a colleague on a difficult day to get emotional support and some helpful words? As therapists, we want to support everyone else, but we all need those people in our lives, those therapist people in our lives who get the work that we do, who we can call and say, today was a really hard day with imposter syndrome, or I had this case that it's really challenging for me and I know exactly who I can call, or I have a couple of people that I can call, that I can reach out to and say, hey, does anyone have time? I really need some support today. We encourage our clients to do that, but interestingly enough, a lot of us don't do that ourselves. Do you remember the last time you had a challenging case and you knew exactly which colleague to connect with for support, so that you could confirm that you were on the right track, that your treatment and plan are just what they need to be, and that we can tap down some of that imposter syndrome that is creeping up, that typically will creep up with a more challenging case? I like to remember that fear is the door to growth. And so imposter syndrome is fear that we're not doing a good job, that we're going to get found out, and that having a little bit of fear in our lives is a good thing. It pushes us to learn more and grow more and connect with other people and resources and things like that, so that we can continue being a better and better portion of our better and better version of ourselves, and also serving our clients better and better through the growth that we're experiencing. Do you remember the last time you thought about your level of fatigue at the end of the day or work to see how you were doing? Do you assess that on a regular basis? Because if you're not doing that during a global pandemic, now is a really good time to think about that. At the end of the week, whether you I've had to make the shift to saying I don't work on Fridays to saying I don't see clients on Fridays, because I actually work really hard on Fridays. And by saying it the other way around, everyone in my life sort of expects that I'm not going to be doing anything. But realistically, I understand the way I've laid out my schedule so that I can have breaks during the day as I'm seeing clients. I do need to do work on Friday for my practice, but also for my Oasis for Therapists business. I've got to have time there to work on the things that I'm doing for that group as well. So that's something that you may want to consider doing, putting it on your schedule, because just like we tell our clients, if you don't schedule it into your day, it's simply not going to happen. We can't expect it to fill in those cracks. And my goal, we've all seen the jar with the rocks and the pebbles and the sand, and you can fill in more and more and more. And I think that can be really helpful and inspirational. But I think in our society we can take that too far. Our goal isn't to always be cramming more and more and more into a day, but it's figuring out how to make the most of our day, be as productive as possible, and still be able to do the work that we need to do, but have quality of life. Hence my workshop called Balance in 2021. Do you have somebody to check in with for marketing tips in small businesses? As we've said so many times over and over and over, we are not trained to be small business owners. And whether or not we call ourselves that, it is what we are. We have to balance our therapist hat with working with our clients, with running a sustainable business where we can make income that can give us a life that we can live, income that we can live on, that can sustain us. We also want to be able to make sure that we have income to have some time off. We need that. We need income to have trainings. We need to have all of those things. And so having support with other small business owners where you can learn together and grow and learn about marketing and develop some great referral sources and learn different ways to manage your business is so important. And just because you didn't get that training in graduate school does not mean you don't desperately need it. So I'm going to keep this kind of short today. I just wanted to pop in and like I said, stir up a little bit of your thinking, because a lot of us have been overwhelmed. We've been hanging on by our fingertips, and I really want to encourage therapists to slow down a little bit, take a step back, and look at the key areas of their practice and their lives where they can make incremental changes that can have bigger, lasting effects, so that your practice is sustainable, your emotional health is sustainable, your physical health is sustainable, and that you actually love the work that you're doing, because we got into this field because we love helping other people. And I want you to be able to do this work for as long as you want and have it be sustainable and have you enjoy the work, even on those really hard days where we have clients who are in so much pain, we can still enjoy the work that we're doing with that person and helping them and partnering with them and walking that journey with them. So I would encourage you all to rewind this video, jot back down some of the things that I talked about, give some thoughts to those different areas of your life and your practice and how you manage them, and then check back next week and we'll talk some more about those, because I truly believe that we can decrease the amount of imposter syndrome that we have if we can work at these areas, if we can get the support that we need, if we can have the community that we need, if we can have the rest that we need, if we can have the training that we need, if we can have all of these pieces of the puzzle put together in a way that's sustainable, that can nourish us and help us grow, then we are going to see decreased imposter syndrome. And I hear that over and over in my peer consultation groups, that at the end of a session, someone will have heard another clinician present a case, and it will be reassuring to them to hear that person's doubts or to see that person's struggles, and then to help them and know that they're both growing through that. And so if you are dealing with imposter syndrome, even periodically, I think there are plenty of ways that we can work on decreasing that. We want to own that it's helpful, that fear helps us grow, but we also want to know that if we get the support and the training and all the other things that we need, then it's going to be rearing its ugly head much less than it may be occurring for you at this time, especially during a global pandemic. All right, I will check back with you next week, and I will give you some tips on how to manage some of those things that I stirred up for you today. Thank you.